Hey folks, today we've got something a little bit special. I've got an interview here with Colin from Battlesystems, and we're going to be talking about the latest core space Kickstarter that is coming very soon. So thanks, Colin. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So before we get on to core space and what's coming down the path soon, you've obviously been exceptionally busy of late with a lot of work with the fantasy terrain. How's that gone? How are you doing? Have you recovered from that?
No, I've definitely not recovered, but I've never recovered from any of our projects. The fantasy train has been absolutely fantastic. It's one of our biggest initial sellers, certainly. And we've already gone through a first print run on that, so we're on a second print run already. People just have been asking for the fantasy train for so long that when we eventually got around to doing that, everybody was kind of like chomping at the bit for it. So massive project, and so much going on. So. Recovered, no. Firing on all cylinders, yes.
Yeah, and for those that didn't pick it up with Kickstarter, there's obviously there's sort of future plans for a lot of that stuff still to be released to retail as well. So that's coming sort of end of this year into next year as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've one of the big aspects of Battlesystems over the last sort of 18 months is going into distribution and retail. So we now have got a worldwide retail presence, which we're really kind of like have been planning for years. And we're really happy about that. So you can pick up the fantasy terrain or any of our cool sets really pretty much anywhere. Come direct or just get it from your local friendly gaming store without a doubt. So we've put a lot of work into that, and we're really proud and happy to have expanded a bit, which is really cool.
You're here to talk about Core Space. So I reviewed Core Space, the retail edition. I don't even think, I think how long ago now it was now. It was over a year ago anyway. But yeah, I was hugely impressed with it. It's one of those very few things where everything you need to play is in the box. There's very little in the way of, there's no assembly from the miniature side of things. And then obviously the terrain that comes in there can be built in many different ways to give you lots of flexibility in your games as well. And the fact that you could play it solo as well was a huge bonus and something I'm sure a lot of people are appreciating it at the moment, not being able to get games in and stuff. So there's been a number of expansions for that. Do you want to talk a little bit about the stuff that's kind of come prior to this new Kickstarter?
Yeah, absolutely. Core Space was our first game, 20 years in the making, almost. It is without a doubt our best-selling set that we've ever done. It's like you say, because it's got everything you need in the box, and because it's uniquely full three-dimensional environment as well. It's just such an immersive game. And it has all these kind of really nice sort of RPG aspects to it, but it plays incredibly quickly. Yeah. We've got, we spent a lot of time making sure we've got the right people, on the miniatures, so the miniatures are beautiful. We don't have things like repeat sculpts and stuff, so every single miniature in the box is unique and across the range. And it's just done so well. It's been received so well. I think we're on our third print run at the moment, which is just beyond what we expected. I think we sold out of our first print run within 5 or 6 months, something like that. And we had sort of 18 months to 2 years supply was what we planned. And so we kind of it's just gone really, really well. We've got some great ratings. We've won some awards. Everybody loves it, which is really good because I love it. I still play it every single week.
No, it's a great game. I had a lot of fun playing it. I still play it now, and there's not a lot of games that give that feeling of that kind of sci-fi smuggler feel to it. It's not just about sort of just killing each other. It's not just about the battle. It's about the storytelling. And I think you're right when you mention that kind of RPG element.
It's really, really nice. Yeah, I mean the fact that you can go in and whether you're playing it solo or even if you've got somebody else, there's another trader team in there, and you might exchange some fire. You're not necessarily enemies, but you could have a bit of a fray, and then of course you end up working together. That can sometimes be a great surprise in the game.
So the original game then basically was set in the Barrens, and the Purge were the enemies. Core Space Firstborn is the new game that you've got, or the new sort of. I should start by saying it is a new starter set, but it's not It's not an expansion. You don't need the original one to play it.
You
Is that
absolutely
right?
don't. That's correct. The big plan with Core Space was always that it's a location based game. So like you said it yourself. The original is set in the Barrens, that kind of desolate place, nearer to the black hole in our galaxy, and it's with this one it's set in a completely different location, further away than our traders have ever been before. And again, it's location based, so you get this new location. You can treat it like an expansion. You've got original core space. You can take your existing crews and you can bring it into this game, and you can merge the two together and have campaigns and stuff. But it, just like the original core space, it's an utterly standalone game. So if you're new to core space, you can come in. You've got your crew. You've got everything you need basically.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Firstborn, about the background, who are the enemies that we'll be seeing, who's the crew that are appearing in this game?
Okay, so yes, the core set comes with a crew, of course, a crew of 4 traders, and instead of fighting the relentless robotic purge, which was the original game, who are still slowly taking over the galaxy, what's happened here is that the galaxy is a really big place, and if you like, the known part of our galaxy is still really quite small compared to the size of the full galaxy. There's plenty left unexplored, and the way that we travel around in core space from location to location is via the travel of core space, where the name comes from, but also these Lagrange gates, these kind of like stargates. And what happens is they get sent off, over many hundreds of years, and when they reach their location, they automatically build up, and once those 2 areas are there, you can travel instantaneously. Over many, hundreds of years, some of those Lagrange gates, those auto systems, they just get lost, and you just, you forget about them. But we've got this one that's just travelled and been forgotten about, and it's kind of spring to life and like, hello, and it's right at the very tip of the Perseus arm in our galaxy, somewhere no one's ever been before. And of course, the traders are having such difficulty with the purge. It's getting so dangerous over here. They're like, well, hang on a minute. Here's an area maybe the purge aren't, and we can go and explore that. And they find, something a little bit different in the Firstborn. So basically, when they arrive, they find this huge kind of artificial sun surrounded by a Dyson sphere, which is obviously powering something, but there's nothing there. But it is surrounded by a belt of asteroids, and on closer inspection, you go into these asteroids and you can see that there is almost like catacombs within it, and that's where the Firstborn are. The Firstborn are basically a race that predates everyone else in the galaxy. So at the height of their civilization, they were utterly alone within the galaxy. There was no other spacefaring species at all. So that society slowly kind of crumbled and fell apart. But one kind of fanatical group went into this kind of long sleep, and they've been asleep for millennia after millennia. And unfortunately, the traders come along and they find these areas, and as our traders do, they're always looking for some salvage and some loot, something to sell and make some money. And so they go into these catacombs, and unfortunately, of course, they're going to inevitably wake up this advanced race of Firstborn.
I'm just looking at some of the minis now as well. I mean, I'm just picking up some of the names here. So we've got Cassie Hopper. Is it Balcoa or Balcoa? And Wade there. So those are your crew basically that you'll have in this. And then obviously you mentioned as well that the game is compatible with original core space and anything that's come out for core space. So obviously there's a lot of crew members that you can port across into this as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone who's played core space before knows that you take your crew in, and you're going to expand on your crew. You're going to upgrade them with new equipment. You're going to learn new skills, but unfortunately, traders do get defeated, and so you have to hire a new crew, and you can pull from the existing complement, if you like, of interesting traders that we've already got. So you might start off with this particular crew, and you might find that you end up swapping out some old favourites as you go along. So that's pretty cool, and that's the flex. That's what I really like about the flexibility. You go in with one crew, and by the time you finish the campaign, it might not be quite how you started.
And then obviously we've got the Firstborn as well, and I think they've got a really kind of unique aesthetic to them, that they're not just kind of your standard sort of space alien race, if you like. They've definitely got a really interesting look to them. Who come up with the concept for those?
Okay, so basically, with the Firstborn, when I was designing the look of them, I was very, very careful because they're totally separated from everybody else. I didn't want any kind of what I would call galactic standard kind of design language within them. So I've made sure that none of their tech has that kind of human kind of feel to it. Everything from symbology to the way they dress when they do dress, and so I picked a few specific shapes and for the design language, and I kind of tried to push that through all the way through the terrain and all the way through the miniatures as well. So.
And just touching on the terrain there as well. Obviously, Battlesystems famous for the terrain as well as the game. So, can you tell us what we can expect with this set? Is there anything different, anything new that you've been designing?
Absolutely, yeah. So with this set, what I've really focused on here is being able to keep it as flexible and as modular as the original core space. So as far as the way that you can set up and have this near limitless kind of ability to build maps, that's exactly the same. But this time you've got this alien architecture. You've got these kind of underground catacombs. You've got it's very overgrown over millennia, so there's a lot of vines and very sort of tomb-like kind of aesthetic, but it's blended quite well with the alien technology and the asteroid rock and everything else. And also with the what we call the scatters, original core space, there's lots of cargo crates and there's lots of tables and chairs and all the really cool things that really bring the environment to life that you normally interact with. You can pick a chair up and chuck it at someone, you can flip a table and hide behind it. With this, we've got very similar things. You've got these arcs that you can search, and you've got sleep chambers where the Firstborn are. But these open up, and you can find your equipment tokens inside. And you have got, and we try to make everything interactive and have a purpose mechanically in the game. So you've got things like exhaust ports that are kind of inert, but through event cards and various things, they can burst to life, and you can get damage from those. And there's a lot of interesting interactive kind of aspects to the core rule set that actually involve the what we call the scatter terrain that's inside the basic 3D environment.
One thing that certainly comes, especially from the original core space with the crates and stuff and things inside that you can find, it seems from what I've been reading and what you're just saying there as well, is that the new terrain, if you like, it's almost part of the rules, part of the game itself. So what can we expect from Firstborn, as in additional gameplay or changes to gameplay?
So you'll be extremely glad to know that it's built on the same core mechanics. So if you're an existing core space player, you'll be able to literally fall into this. The physics are the same. Your crew are going to move around in the same way. But the interesting thing about the Firstborn, unlike the Purge, you're this kind of relentless wave after wave of assault. With the Firstborn, these are not kind of like a hive mind. They're a little bit more independent. And when you first arrive in the tomb, we've got this new unique kind of start to the game. So ordinarily, what happens with core space is we've got like a hostility tracker, which allows you to kind of track up through. When you first start, it's kind of quiet, and the higher you go, the more enemies that you're going encounter, etc. With this, which is quite unique, the very first kind of 7 levels of that are what we call a patrol phase. So the Firstborn, the organic, the main Firstborn, the real Firstborn, they're all asleep, and you have these drones that are patrolling. And so the first part, you have this kind of stealth part to the game where you have to kind of use your guile and cunning to kind of work around, and if you can kind of avoid those drones while they're moving from patrol point to patrol point, you'll have a little time to kind of maybe get some salvage and do what it is you need to do. But of course, if you do get spotted, immediately the hostility tracker is advanced to the wake, the wake protocols area. In which case, you're gonna have a slightly different game if you wake them earlier. You're gonna have less time in the game maybe. So that one of the main changes is this really unique stealth area to the game at the start, which is really really nice.
I like the sound of that because one of the things from the original core space was that building of threat, that hostility as well, and it does kind of give you that feeling of tension, and this sounds like it really builds on that as well. So I like the sound of that.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well. So one of the things I really enjoyed from Core Space is the NPCs as well, the non-player characters. For anyone that's not played Core Space before, that like you're inside these ships, you're inside these kind of containers, and there are people wandering around there. They might get caught in the crossfire in a battle. You can try and recruit them and bring them on as part of your crew. Is that something that we'll see again in Firstborn?
Yes, this was an area that was kind of strange at first because you wouldn't in this new area just kind of like find people like going about their daily lives and sort of buying a sandwich and doing some shopping and so. And as you said, in Core Space we do have these civilians and we have like workers who are on the job and they're working and they with this you it was kind of strange because I wanted to integrate that as well. And some of the ideas that we've got and some of the cool things that we've done, the miniatures we've made, we've kind of built on that. So instead of finding like someone out sort of like buying a packet of crisps, what we've got now is we've got things like these are asteroids basically that have been inert for millennia. So they're riddled with kind of current life. We have these huge kind of rock worms, which are these massive creatures. If we look at kind of size wise, we have these and these can come out of these craters, which are kind of spread around the environment, and if they come up, they kind of stay in one place, but they kind of block the area, and you have to be able to take them out. And with that come things like game hunters. They're the attraction of like the cool, interesting new thing to hunt. You've got things like game hunters. One of the other new mechanics as well that we've got in this is that original Core Space, you've got these, you can open the boxes and you can, take out the equipment and search and find some ammo and guns and things like that. We've still got that, albeit it won't be ammo and guns you're finding, it's alien technology that you can actually use to craft and upgrade existing equipment, which is really, really cool. But we've also got a new mechanic as well, which is you can still search a room and place a search counter in the room, but you can also mine a room as well. And so you can actually mine raw minerals from the walls. There's a lot of, because this alien technology is new, there's a lot of interesting crafting things that you can do with this, with the minerals. And with the NPCs, you've now got, the plan is, hopefully with a successful Kickstarter that we have these interesting, NPCs that come looking for that as well. So maybe there'd be something that kind of tries to mine the area, some independent NPCs that come in and try and mine the area before you can get to it, which will be interesting, for sure.
I think it's a great addition, like I said, from the original game as well. It was just something that it almost grounds the game in some kind of sort of alternative reality, if you like. But it grounds the game in that where there are other people there. You're not alone in this place, kind of thing. There are people living and breathing, and in this case, hunting and the being able to with the minerals and stuff you've just been talking about. It just adds like an extra level of story to the game. It's not complex, but it doesn't do it through adding complexity, which I think is handled really well.
It doesn't, yeah, and the amount of times that you will go in and plan a game and things are just going really badly and you're like, and then all of a sudden a rockworm turns up and you can't get out. But then the hunters turn up and you're kind of like, well, hang on a minute, maybe you can help me out, and you persuade a hunter to join your crew for a bit, and they've got some good firepower, and all of a sudden the tables turn and you have this kind of interaction that just is realistic. In the original Core Space, the amount of times that you'll be, in a battle and you planned it perfectly. You line up a shot, and a civilian just like walks into your line of sight. And like, oh no, I'm not going to get out now. So we've got exactly that kind of same mechanic within this, because it just adds so much. It just means you can make a good, like life really. You can make a good plan, but there's always going to be this like third component that just kind of puts a little bit of a downer on your plans, or sometimes helps you.
It just creates like some really cinematic moments, and especially for a solo game as well, or a game that you can play solo, I should say. I think those cinematic moments are needed. Otherwise, you're just moving things and rolling dice. And actually, if you can create that story and create those cinematic moments, it's the kind of thing that wants you to go back and play that game again.
I totally agree. I mean, what you said there about just you might as well just roll dice is something that is kind of I use quite a lot. I speak about quite a lot because when playing games, if you don't have some sort of thematic, or you don't have something that's interesting happening that changes, almost like real life. You have this plan going on. What happens is sometimes when I played some games, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was interesting, but it might have been quicker just not to set up and just roll some dice. Whoever rolls the highest dice wins.
Yeah, some games you can get to the end and you think if 2 hours ago I just flipped a coin, it would have saved a lot of time. It's certainly not the case with this one. What I would say is, well, I mean, I was sent the original course-based retail version, and I still stand by today that I think that's an absolutely fantastic value box. I think for the amount of stuff that you get in that at retail price. There's not many games where you literally get everything in there, from the mat, the terrain, all of the bits and pieces. Some of the components I was quite surprised that in the retail set were, like, for example, the plastic sort of pegboards. The I forget what they're called now, but those boards where you put your character card and all of the upgrades, and you're tracking the damage and things. Those are the kind of things I expected to be kind of sort of upgrades, if you like. And looking at the Kickstarter here for Firstborn, like, obviously the Kickstarter, it's fantastic value again. The amount of stuff that you get in here for the price of the pledge is really is something special. And again, you're talking about there's 2x2 mat in there as well. Again, there's a whole heap of terrain. Do you want to talk a little bit about the contents?
Yeah. It's something that with original course base and with this one, we're following the same plan. There's nothing worse than buying a game that you just get like a few basic components, and then you essentially have to pay to play, and build on. But we don't cut corners on any of the content. So what I've got on the table here in front of me is basically what you're going to get at launch. Which is like the original course base. You've got all of the scenery that you need. You've got everything there. You've got all the miniatures that you need. You've got all the scatter scenery that you need. You're going to get all the equipment tokens. You're going to get these same dashboards that we have, and all the tracking pegs and all the counters and the dice and the event cards and the hostility tracker. The neoprene mat, everything. And so we've gone with that same approach for this game, because it is I just believe that you should be able to have endless fun with a starter set, and not have to rely heavily on expansions. Great, take an expansion, get some Galactic Police, or get some interesting things to come in and kind of, add new fun to it, but you don't need it. It's not essential. You've got everything that you need. And it's the same here. We've got some slightly different things. We've got some new patrol points and some extra little bits and pieces. And again, the miniatures are different. And we've got some much larger miniatures like the rockworms, for example. It's the same as the original course base as far as content is concerned, and it is a lot of content. It's a big, heavy box.
Yeah, it definitely is, and there was just a lot of thought gone. Even just that being able to put it back in the box and store it as well. There was a hell of a lot of thought you could see had gone into that as well, which was obviously massively appreciated by players.
Yes,
and so just looking at the Kickstarter as well, you've also, if you pledge for the Kickstarter, there's an expansion that comes with it as well, and there's a particularly large model that's it's kind of like it's shaded out there, so we don't get to see what it is yet. Do you want to tease a little bit about that?
Sure. We've got we wanted to give something a little extra. Course base has done so well, and it only did well because of Kickstarter. So we almost wanted to kind of like release some stretch goal content and just say right from the start, regardless of what happens, bang, you can have this. And the Trueborn they almost create their own god. So excuse me, and that's what you're going to get at launch. You're going to get this expansion. We've got this huge 120 millimeter miniature, which moves around the board in kind of an interesting way. You'll see when we launch Kickstarter, and it comes with these two Guardian miniatures, which I've got one of here, and they kind of protect it, and it's got a unique mechanic whereby there's a kind of synergy between them. And yeah, we're literally giving it, without going into too much details, I want to save some of the fun. We're just gonna give you that straight off the bat, and it comes with all its cards and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty exciting, I'll be honest. For those that haven't played Court Space, I should probably just add as well is that the game it's 1 to 4 players. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this one, for this one, this comes with your existing crew, so you can play it solo straight out of the box. You can kind of team up and play it co-op as well if you wanted to do that. And because with expansions and with any existing content, you can bring 2 crews in if you're an original player and you've got another crew. So we've got that. People play Core Space in so many different ways. So 1 to 4 players, you can have a 6-player game. You can play 4 players and have 4 different crews, but you could also go in and have 1 crew and then designate each player a character in that crew. So you designate the captain. There's just so many different interesting ways that you can handle the narrative of this game, it's just really flexible, regardless of how many people are sitting around the table.
Yeah, it was one of the things I was going to say is just how flexible it is, because a lot of games, if you're playing sort of quite adversarial, sort of player versus player, there's always that one person who kind of knows the game that little bit better and remembers more rules and kind of knows the tactics and things. But a game like this, which allows you to play solo, so you can kind of get your head around the rules, and then when you can sit down and play with one of your gaming friends, you can play it as co-op, and you can kind of take them through the game with you, and you can play it together. And then, like you say, there's so many other ways to do it. There's not a lot of games have that flexibility in a rule set without, you need this expansion to play solo, or you need this expansion to play co-op. Or I think the way the enemies, if you like, and the non-player characters are controlled by some really clever flowcharts actually in the rule book. It just builds so much flexibility that we don't see very often in games.
It does, and I wanted that flexibility built in there right from the off. But I also wanted it to be able to have all that flexibility without making the game complex or even changing the core mechanics of the game. And that's one of the cool things about it. Whether you play it solo, co-op, player versus player, which often ends up being co-op anyway, because you need to you either you don't want to die, so you don't want to lose your crew, so you work together for a short amount of time. Whichever way you decide to play it, you're not you don't have to kind of learn new rules or make any changes at all really to your understanding of the game, and that just makes it really accessible to everybody and everybody's kind of play style. I've got a certain play style. I've got friends that have a different type of play style, and we can all play together. And I really like the fact that it doesn't matter who you're playing with, you can just all enjoy your own play style.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about it as well, and seeing the game when I actually sort of get to play it. What I will do is, I am down in the description here of this video, I'll put a link to the Kickstarter when it does go live. I think it's due to go live on the 20th of October. If you're watching this before then, so that's the right, Colin, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll put a link to, I'll retrospectively come in and put a link to the Kickstarter when it goes live. I'll also put a link to my original Core Space review video. If you've never played Core Space before, or you're not too sure about it and you want to know a little bit more about how the game plays and the quality of the components that you can expect, I'll let you check that one out. But otherwise, Colin, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to, again, just thank everybody for the support on the original Core Space. This second new location, this new area, everything that we've got here is because of the support that we've got on that original Kickstarter, and the support that we've got from players afterwards, new and existing players, and support from the retailers who have taken faith on us, on the game. and then seeing the rewards of that. So yeah, just a big thank you to everyone that brought the game to life. And you know, hopefully this is just one of many locations to add to the you know, a very big galaxy.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time, Colin. Best of luck with the Kickstarter.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching, folks. See you in the next video.